The children on the wrong.
As a child,
Dumb
watching
baby,
Nick shows
good
seemed
girl.
great on the surface, but as we grow up, we see there may have been a lot more
My
to the show
baby
than we
Wendy.
realize. See some of the craziest
Wendy
Nickelodeon theories involving
Burger.
hit shows like the
Thanks,
Rugrats,
baby.
iCarly,
You're welcome.
Spongebob Squarepants, and
My
Jimmy
Wendy
Neutron Boy
Burger,
Genius.
baby
You
whore.
may never look at
I
these
know
Nick shows
what,
the same
baby.
again.
Yep,
Before you
you're a
watch,
good
click
girl. You're
subscribe,
my
and you'll
whore,
join our
baby.
notification squad to be the first to
Yep.
know of new Screen Rant content.
The last thing she wrote in it was a poem for you.
On Rugrats, it took years before Chucky's real mom was finally revealed in a Mother's Day special. She died when Chucky was barely a newborn, but one theory states that she may not have been his mom in the first place. The theory proposes that Dee Dee Pickles is Chucky's actual mom. They have similar looks, Chucky's dad gets along great with Dee Dee, and Chucky spends an awful lot of time hanging out in Pickles' household. Maybe Stu shouldn't have spent so much time in the basement tinkering with his toys. Tommy and Chucky's friendship could grow even stronger if the two knew they were related. For a preschool show like Blue's Clues, there sure are a lot of theories about the content, characters, and plot. No, we're not talking about the birth of Paprika, but rather Steve's role on the show. He constantly talks to a group of kids, sings songs, and plays silly games. One theory states Steve's house is actually a daycare, and each episode is him simply taking care of the children. This explains why Steve acts the way he does, and how he doesn't figure out Blue's Clues so much faster. Obviously, the gig didn't pay enough, as Joe came in and took over after a few seasons.
Oh, that must be our 4 o'clock massages.
The live-action format of Drake and Josh was loved by fans and led to many questions. In the opening of each episode, the characters talk to the camera and basically narrate their feelings. Many fans have come to the conclusion that Drake and Josh is a reality show set in the Nick universe. Many other characters on Nick shows like iCarly and Victorious have watched Drake and Josh episodes within their worlds. And some of the same characters have also appeared in those shows, making them exist in the world. The reality show offers a real-life perspective of mixed families and the journey two young teens must go through. Spongebob Squarepants is filled with all kinds of theories and mixed messages, but do they involve the 7 deadly sins? Many fans have assigned a deadly sin to each character on the show. Naturally, Mr. Krabs represents greed.
You got money, right?
Patrick represents sloth, and Sandy represents pride. This leaves wrath for Squidward.
Let me guess, Tiny. A small salad.
Lust for SpongeBob, gluttony for Gary, and envy for Plankton.
Pull up that secret formula or else.
Whether the creators intended this or not, each role fits the character perfectly and often ends up being some of their biggest flaws while going on adventures.
See his baby picture? There's baby Freddy in the bathtub.
One of the biggest mysteries iCarly never answered was who the father of Freddie Benson actually was. A bizarre fan theory points out his father may be none other than a bee. Barry Benson, to be exact. The animated bee played the starring role in Bee Movie, and he finds a connection with a human woman who looks eerily similar to Mrs. Benson. The theory became so popular that actor Nathan Kress tweeted about it and jokingly confirmed that the theory was true. SpongeBob's formula for success hasn't changed much over the years, but his maturity has sure gone downhill. Fans mark the release of the SpongeBob Squarepants movie and 5th season premiere as 2 points where SpongeBob's actions shifted into a more
Smash
childish
it down,
tone.
baby.
The theory, SpongeBob
Sure,
died
go
and was
ahead.
reborn. The moment happened on the big screen when SpongeBob dries out on the beachside souvenir shop. The reborn SpongeBob is naturally more immature as he learns to grow and accept his new identity.
Oh, hey, Al. Sorry, I can't talk. I'm late for school.
The classic Nicktoon Doug follows the perspective of Doug Funny as his family moves to a new town, and Doug must navigate his complicated social life. Many fans point out Doug's blatant racism through the views of his mind. Anyone on the show with different skin colors are viewed by Doug with really wild skin tones.
Let me
including
fuck,
sneakers
can you
like
get
blue.
me,
Although
choke
tries
me?
to pass it off as an innocent imagination, fans believe he is naively racist based on his upbringing in the years
Sure,
before the show
baby.
began.
How far do you want my dick to go in you when you taste the
The
burger?
core of Are You
All the
Afraid of
way
the Dark
in.
revolved
Stick your
around
dick
the
all the way in,
Bighead
baby
Society,
daddy.
a group of teens who told tales
Sure.
of terror each night. But where did these kids come from? They rarely talked about their personal lives outside of the group, and one theory states that they're all actually dead and ghosts themselves. The Midnight Society is actually a state of limbo. The characters who left the group have finally crossed over to the other side.
Or you could just ask my magic pyramid for all the answers.
Ned's declassified
another
school
John
survival
baby.
guide could also be a guide
Done,
to the
baby.
Illuminati if one fan theory is true. In the episode Failing,
go,
Ned
ho.
uses a magical
I know what,
pyramid
baby
to solve
daddy.
all the answers
Yes,
of a
my
quiz test.
queen.
The pyramid features the all-seeing eye on on one side, and the side always faces towards the camera. Fans theorize the episode is clearly promoting the power of the Illuminati. Unfortunately, a teacher smashes the pyramid. The episode is clearly promoting the power of the Illuminati. Unfortunately, a teacher smashes the pyramid in the episode, leaving a lot of unanswered questions.
Take a deep breath and be myself.
Butch Hartman is known for creating Nicktoons like The Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom. Not only are the animation styles the same between
Because
both
another
shows,
joint.
but the
Damn,
characters are
baby.
eerily similar. And
Let's
have
go
led
to the
many
place
fan
where we're gonna
theories. One
fuck.
of these theories is that Danny Phantom
We'll
is a
smoke
grown-up version
there.
of Timmy Turner. After
Done,
using the
good
power
idea.
of the fairies, Timmy goes under the
Yep. Pause it. So show me where we're gonna fuck, baby. This way. Got it, bitch. I know. Okay, follow me. Keep going. This way. Follow me. Keep going down. Okay, keep going. Keep on going. So tunnels are true. They do have tunnels of it under here. Yeah, pretty much. This way. Here. What is this? This is what our dorms work very with. Okay. Like staff who serve food and stuff had their own dorms. Well, the classroom guys had their own dorms. And the managers had their own dorms. You get it, hey. They had their own rooms. Yeah, I gotcha. So, where we gonna fuck? We're gonna fuck here. What, here on here? Yeah, cool. Let's chill here. No. Matter of fact, let's chill. Yeah. Chill here, dog. Let's have another joint. Done. Good girl. My hoe. I know. Who's my hoe? I am, Daddy. Yes, bitch. Yeah, but you're a good girl. I know, Daddy. I am a good girl. Yes. Press play.
Assumed name of Danny, it has the ability to connect to both the real world and ghost dimension. The similar looks, hairstyles, and actions of the characters really help connect the two shows.
My name's Amanda, and everyone here tonight gets a free cell phone!
On the Amanda show, Amanda Bynes was constantly stalked by a crazed lookalike with the name Penelope. While Penelope was an alter ego played by Bynes as well, many fans believe she was real, kidnapped Amanda Bynes, and assumed her identity in the real world. The theory explains some of Bynes' bizarre actions in real life. And obviously, Penelope could not act as well as Bynes, giving us a good reason for her lack of film roles in the past several years.
4 heaping pounds of freshly ground Plankton?
SpongeBob's biggest mystery still remains after so many years. What is inside a Krabby Patty? Well, according to several theories, the ingredient is actually crab itself. That's right, Mr. Krabs kills his own kind to make profits and craft the most delicious patty sandwich. The theory stems from the name of the restaurant. There's Burger King, Taco Bell, and Dairy Queen, all with food in the title. It would make sense that the Krusty Krab would actually include crab on the... For some reason, many children's show theories involve the characters and drug use. One of them is Steve from Blue's Clues. Steve's drug problems led to the character seeing all types of things around his home. Talking furniture, talking food, and a singing mailbox were just some of the objects who came...
Always get it right with the new Philips Sonicare Prestige.
Fuck off.
Objects who came to life to talk to the drug-induced Steve. Then there's the times when Steve would jump into paintings as if they were real-life locations. By the time Joe came around, Steve was off to rehab, not college.
To deliver the plague unto our houses! He did!
Bikini Bottom is a strange place. Fish talk, some of them have weird mutations, and there's a Texan squirrel who decided to spend her life researching underwater. How did it all occur? Well, one theory places the blame on nuclear radiation. Many of the buildings are said to be shells of nuclear bombs, and the bombs have mutated the fish and other sea creatures to form the characters we know and love. How else would you explain a clarinet-loving octopus?
Cock-a-doodle-doo! The cow says moo!
Connecting shows is a great way to build theories, and one far-reaching theory helps connect the world of iCarly to Drake and Josh. On Drake and Josh, the character Crazy Steve worked at the local movie theater. He was played by Jeremy Trainer, the same actor who played Spencer on iCarly. The theory states that Crazy Steve and Spencer are the same character. Steve kidnapped Drake and Josh's younger sister Megan, took her to Seattle, and brainwashed her to think she was actually named Carly and living in an apartment with her brother. Process the theory for a minute. It actually makes a lot of sense.
Mr. Dink is really upset.
When Doug moved to Bluffington, he met a number of new characters, including the eccentric Mr. Dink. But was there more to Mr. Dink than meets the... He was always popping up in random locations, took Doug to his secret shed, and his only friends seemed to be children. Mr. Dink may have been a child predator who covered his tracks using various inventions and gadgets. Doug covered up...
Yeah, but
covered up any memories of Mr. Dink's dirty deeds using his active imagination and daydreams.
Searched Shakespeare, Scottish Kings, and downloaded the Keanu Reeves Advanced Acting Course.
Jimmy Neutron was a certified genius with the ability to invent robots, explore space, and create all kinds of useful inventions. Yet everyone in Retroville mostly ignored his special abilities or shrugged them off as child's play. A theory related to the town of Retroville involves a large government cover-up. Jimmy Neutron lives in a Truman Show type of situation involving the government tracking Jimmy's every move and using his inventions to their advantage. By making Jimmy feel like he's living a normal childhood, he continues to grow and invent new things.
Keep your eyes off my stoop, old man.
One of the biggest questions involving the classic Nicktoon Hey Arnold is the presence of Stoop Kid. Why was he so dedicated to his stoop? According to one theory, Stoop Kid was forced to stay on the stoop because the building he sat at was actually home to a huge drug operation. Stoop Kid had to stay on his stoop to prevent anyone from going into the building and kept an eye out for any possible police activity or suspicious people. We imagine Stoop Kid got into major trouble when Arnold finally got him off the stoop.
I think this kind of went kaboom.
If you ever thought it was two brothers who were named Pete, well then we have a theory for you. On the adventures of Pete and Pete, one theory states that the younger Pete is not even real. He's the manifestation of the older Pete. The younger Pete is more daring and does things the older Pete wishes he did when he was younger. By living vicariously through the younger brother, Pete feels more satisfied about the less adventurous life he lives. The next time you watch Pete, to keep this theory in mind, the show will give you a whole new perspective.
You ever had chocolate before?
I don't know if I like.
If you haven't watched Nickelodeon in a long time, the next time you tune in, everything may feel a little similar. No, it's not another repeat. One theory states Nick went through a big remake stage to try and relaunch some of their shows that were a little less popular back in the day. For example, the old show Brothers Garcia was remade into Ricky, Dicky, Nicky, and Don. The show Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide was remade into 100 Things to Do Before High School. And then there's the show Marvin, a show very similar to the journey of Alan Strange. The stories and characters in each of the show counterparts are nearly identical to each other.
I'm sure it flies when you're having fun.
Clarissa Explains It All ended far earlier than it should have. Of course, the show wouldn't have lasted long enough to show Clarissa have children, but a theory quickly spread over the internet connecting Clarissa to the show Ned's Declassified. According to rumors, Ned was actually the child of Sam and Clarissa and even mentioned them by name. Unfortunately, the theory was debunked when the scenes and episodes mentioned in the theory didn't even exist. Fortunately, Sabrina is due to make her big return to TV, and we'll get some real answers about her future. Timmy Turner was living a
Love
miserable
you,
life before
Wendy
the fairies arrived.
Tessabugger,
He had
baby.
neglectful parents, a
Oh.
horrible babysitter, and
Love
some
you too,
pretty strict
baby.
school teachers. According to a popular theory, Timmy never got fairies, but was prescribed multiple antidepressants. Cosmo and Wanda represent both Zoloft and Prozac, giving Timmy hope, happiness, and optimism. When Timmy overuses their magic, he actually overdoses on the pills and has to suffer from some pretty crazy side effects. Yikes. This one was a little depressing.
I'm not crazy!
Danny Phantom's whole premise is pretty crazy, even for a cartoon. He's a superhero who battles ghosts and supernatural creatures across multiple dimensions. But is it all real? A theory about the show states that everything after the pilot actually didn't happen. Danny fell into a coma, and everything that happens with his superhero adventures is actually all just part of his dreamlike coma state. The all-a-dream theories are done for many shows, but this one is more convincing than others.
Doctor, are you sure? Maybe we should get a second opinion.
The world of the Rugrats includes multiple seasons, feature films, and spin-off shows like All Grown Up. With so much content, there are bound to be a ton of theories, and many have spread around over the years. One of the most popular theories involves the existence of the Rugrats altogether. The dark theory states that all of the babies are actually dead, and the only way for Angelica to cope is by imagining the babies are all still alive. The deaths of the babies are pretty sad as well, and involve stillbirths, car accidents, and miscarriages, among others. Thankfully, All Grown Up pretty much debunks the theory and showcases how the Rugrats are all alive and well.
I'm the manager of this establishment. Everything's gonna be just fine.
Cartoons have always been an important part of our childhood, and some of the best cartoons have been those that came from one of the legendary studios, Nickelodeon. Nick has been praised for its programming, but what if we told you that sometimes Nick has made headlines for the wrong reasons? Before we get started on some shocking secrets, be sure to hit that red subscribe button to stay up to date on all things Screen Rant.
Mommy, well, I'm not baby. Knock it off.
The Great Angelica Feud. If you're a fan of the 90s, then chances are you'll be flooded with major nostalgia feels when we mention a little show called Rugrats. Maybe you've heard of it. Of course you have. The show was one of the first Nicktoons that were ever created. And if you're familiar with the time period, you'll know that the humor and what was allowed on television was a lot different. And like with the first round of most shows, it was all about finding the right balance of what was kid-friendly and what was a little too much. Rugrats was a bit more on the cautious side, compared to some other Nicktoons. We're looking at you, Ren and Stimpy. However, there was a debate among the writing staff about how to handle Angelica's meanness. Arlene Klasky thought that the toddler Angelica was too much on the mean side. However, Paul Germain thought that she dealt with some of the heavier emotions that come with childhood. Both sides can be argued, but alas, Germain was kicked off the show along with several other writers in 1993. The show was canceled in 94, but rose to massive popularity through syndication. So naturally, more episodes were produced in 1996. This time with a little bit less meanness to it.
Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. Rocco. Mrs. Bighead.
Rocco's Romance Life. You know the saying that times change. And if you look back at some of Nickelodeon's older cartoons and content, it's pretty clear how much has changed. One of the more adult kids shows on the network was, of course, Rocco's Modern Life. If you go back and watch the show, there are plenty of moments which make you question why this was ever on a kids network. Just go back and watch it. You'll see what we mean. There are so many innuendos and jokes that you missed as a kid. Although it was less gross and not as mean as some of the other shows, it did tend to go a bit far with its not-so-subtle adult content. It was definitely no surprise when the show eventually went a little too far with its episode, Leapfrogs. In this episode, Mrs. Bighead, the croaky-voiced toad, was trapped in a loveless marriage and was desperate for a little bit of attention from a man. And so Bev Bighead tries to seduce Rocco. As you can imagine, the theme of adultery was too much and was deemed too inappropriate for kids, which resulted in the episode being pulled from the air.
Listen, Doug. Try to concentrate.
Who
Give up the
cares?
dog.
Just a
Shows get
show.
canceled all the time, and sometimes we hope for them to get picked up and saved by other networks. However, in the case of Doug,
shit.
many fans feel as though it was better left
People are
alone.
dumb.
But in 1996,
I know.
Doug transitioned over to Disney and joined their Saturday morning lineup.
Love you,
Doug was
baby.
such a hit,
Daddy.
they ended up making a Doug
Love
movie
you
in
too.
1999.
My
Talk about
baby
success.
Tessie Bug, a
So
baby
what's
whore.
not to love? Well, naturally, Disney made some changes. Like with the unique music, they changed the theme song, which was one of the best parts. Which was one of the best parts of the show. They also changed the characters. Like Connie, a character who was curvy, ended up being turned skinny. It was even part of the plot. Roger got turned into a rich kid and no longer lived in a trailer park. Doug got a baby sister, and he was voiced by a completely different actor. Fans are still not happy about it today.
Have no fear. I have many powers of vision.
Angry Beaver's last episode. In the era of Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy, we also had the Angry Beavers. Again, another show that was technically a kid's show, but the subject matter was not so innocent. The premise followed two brothers, Norbert and Daggett Beaver, who left home to go out and explore the world, all while getting into escapades and shenanigans. But after 4 seasons, the Angry Beavers was to come to a close. So what do you do when your show is over? Well, go out with a bang, right? Co-creator Keith Kachorik decided he wanted the final episode to have the Beavers, Norbert, and Daggett realize that they were cartoon characters in a show that was about to be canceled. Although breaking the fourth wall works for some stories, we're looking at you, Deadpool. It was a no-no in Nickelodeon's book, and so the last episode was canceled. A little ironic, don't you think?
I don't believe this.
Zoe gets canceled. But don't you just hate it when your favorite shows get canceled when you're not even expecting it? Zoe 101 was one of Nickelodeon's highest rated shows. It originally aired in 2005 and followed teen Zoe Brooks, played by Jamie Lynn, come to an end. Well, there are some complications. The star of the show became pregnant, and while that might not have been an issue on regular TV shows, this was a kid's show, and Miss Jamie Lynn was only 16 years old. Although it's unclear if that's the reason why it ended, it has also been said that the show just ran its course. Can't all be a coincidence, though, right?
Much filth.
Invader Zim's trial. Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Nickelodeon wanted to bring some edge to the network, and they got it when they took a chance on Jonan Vasquez. The show was totally different and unlike anything we have ever seen. The outlandish humor and characters were a hit among viewers. The show unfortunately got canceled midway through the production of its second season. There wasn't any issues with censorship, believe it or not, but rather the expensive, high-quality CG animations. But the show remained a cult classic, especially with merchandise. So how could this awesome show about an alien receive any flack? Well, we'll tell you. The only thing worse than being canceled is to be mentioned by a defendant during a murder trial. In 2005, a young woman was found murdered in her home, and her neighbor was arrested and charged for murder. The killer mentioned a fascination with an episode of Invader Zim called Dark Harvest, in which Zim collects human organs in an attempt to seem more human. Needless to say, Invader Zim's reputation suffered after this. However, some witnesses say that his comments were made in passing and were not to be taken seriously.
Jay! Jay! Good morning! What you doing, buddy?
No time for adventure. If you're a fan of cartoons and are still a kid, or a kid at heart, chances are you've seen or at least heard of the Cartoon Network hit show Adventure Time. The show is full of random nonsense, creativity, imagination, and some of the strangest characters and plots. The show is kooky, wacky, and downright strange to say the least. But overall, it's an excellent time. The popular cartoon fantasy is about magic, adventure, and all kinds of awesome stuff. You might be thinking, what do Finn the human and Jake the dog have to do with Nickelodeon? Well, we got a story for you. Nickelodeon has a segment called Nickelodeon's Random Cartoons, and in 2007 they had their hands on something big. Pendleton Ward's original pilot of Adventure Time was in their grasp, but they turned it down not just once, but twice. Turns out it was just a little bit too weird. You'd think Nickelodeon would be all over this, but alas, they weren't. The pilot went viral, and the rest, as they say, is history. The show totally revitalized Cartoon Network's programming. You wonder if Nickelodeon regrets their decision. What do you think? Rugrats anti-Semitism controversy. We know what you're thinking. Rugrats is in here for a second time? Oh yes, friends, this popular show is not free from controversy. Rugrats has been praised for its depiction of Judaism and was popular among Jewish families for its portrayal of the half-Jewish family, the Pickles. The show had a Passover and Hanukkah special and gave kids some insights into Jewish ceremonies and family traditions. Arlene Klasky, who is a Jewish woman from a mixed family as well, believed that cultural representation was important, which fans loved. So it was quite a bit of a shock when the Anti-Defamation League accused a Rugrats newspaper comic strip of anti-Semitism in 1998. The outrage happened over a comic strip that featured Grandpa Boris reciting a prayer at Rosh Hashanah services while the protagonist baby,
She just needs some dick and heart.
wondering what the adults
That's
were
all.
doing.
Then she'll
The strip in
calm
question was
down.
not meant to be disrespectful
Yeah, for sure.
in any way, but Abe Foxman of the Anti-Defamation League accused Boris's design of resembling anti-Semitic Nazi-era depictions of Jewish people. Nickelodeon's response was to withdraw the comic strip from circulation.
Huh. I don't feel anything. Oh my gosh, Patrick, you have a mustache!
Spongebob's Endless Summer. Get in your boatmobile and rev up those fryers because we are sure hungry for some more SpongeBob news. The lovable sea sponge with the infectious laughter is a force to be reckoned with. He's been around for almost 2 decades and almost every kid knows his name. But as with every great show, it is not without its share of commotion and controversy. And among the many surrounding SpongeBob throughout the years, there was one in 2011 involving the hosts of Fox and Friends. The episode in question, The Endless Summer, follows Mr. Krabs trying to put more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere
It's
to
another
accelerate
joint, baby.
global warming
Done,
and create
baby.
an endless summer.
My baby
that
daddy.
way, everyone will pay to go to his pool.
Good
Fox
girl.
and Friends attacked
I know.
SpongeBob and said the show
With
only
the
presents
tester
one
burger.
side of the argument.
I know
They accused
what,
SpongeBob
baby.
and the Department of Education for pushing the
Yep.
global warming agenda. At an event, by handing out copies of the book, SpongeBob Goes Green, an Earth-friendly adventure. However, Fox was one of the many available for kids to choose from.
Yeah, but,
Ren and Stimpy banned episode. When you think of sick and disturbing cartoons, we are willing to bet that Ren and Stimpy is pretty high on that list. As you may know, Ren and Stimpy was notorious for pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable for kids' cartoons on more than several occasions. The show was always more popular with the older kids, needless to say. Each episode always took it to the limit with its dark sense of humor. But one particular episode was so brutally violent that it caused it to be banned immediately by Nickelodeon. The episode in question is called Man's Best Friend. This episode totally crossed the line, and when it comes to Ren and Stimpy, that's saying a whole lot. The episode featured its regular questionable humor and references to tobacco, but one scene in particular was too much to handle. The scene depicted Ren using an oar to beat a character named George to a bloody pulp. Nick executives flagged it as too violent, which led creator John Crispolucci to be fired, and the episode was removed from syndication. The only shocking thing about this was that it wasn't banned earlier. As we transitioned into middle school and slowly started to mature, Nickelodeon kept us around thanks to their Teen Nick programming block. A variety of shows featured the great Nick comedy and entertainment we loved, but sometimes things went a little dark. Watch to see shocking storylines, mature themes, and some episodes that were downright banned from ever airing again. Before you watch, click subscribe. You'll join our notification squad and be the first to know of brand new content. And can you guess which movie is represented by these emoji? Stay tuned to the end to find out.
Come on, dude, I said I was sorry. I heard you. Well, stop being mad at me. I'm not mad at you. I'm done.
Drake and Josh. For many of us, The Adventures of Drake and Josh was a comedy hit where we grew connected to the characters and their ongoing stories. The stepbrothers often had crazy shenanigans and would often pull each other into convoluted plots involving school, relationships, and work. While the pals would bicker a lot, things were never as serious as in the episode entitled Josh is Done. After Drake forces Josh to miss an important exam, Josh decides to end their friendship and start living separate lives. Throughout the course of the episode, Drake's life slowly unravels until he reaches a dramatic breaking point. Played up with complete seriousness, Drake goes on to explain to Josh how much he needs him, how much his life is better with him in it, and how sorry he is for the actions he caused. The whole scene is pretty deep, and has even more context now knowing the real-life rift between the two actors. By the end of the episode, there's no big happy ending, but they do end up playing a game of ping pong together in an effort to repair their damaged relationship. The episode showcases how friendships don't last forever and how important it is to never take a friend for granted.
Hands up.
He's Chucky! He's Chucky! There's a doctor in the house!
Rocco Goes to Heck. For a show about a wallaby, Rocco's Modern Life sure explored some pretty dark subjects. Rocco's best friend Heifer has two different experiences with the show's version of hell, simply referred to as Heck on the show. In the episode To Heck and Back, Heifer chokes on a chicken bone, and his presumed death forces the character down to Heck. There he meets Peaches, the animated form of the devil who spends their time torturing Heifer. The imagery may be frightening to younger crowds, and the trapped world of Heck feels like torture while watching the episode. Just when you think Heifer has escaped Heck, we learn he is still trapped there and Peaches continues to play games. One of the darkest parts is when Peaches removes the black hood to reveal a scary face with squirting cow udders on top of their head. Peaches in the world of Heck returns for the episode Hef in a Handbasket. This dark episode turns Heck into a creepy game show where no one truly wins. Both episodes received complaints from viewers and were banned for a while before being reintroduced through Teen Nick reruns. Now you can see glimpses of an animated hell when Rocco's Modern Life is featured on late-night episodes of Teen Nick's The Splat.
I'm Archie, the strongest man in the world.
Suddenly, we had the answer.
A smush hat head, like a lima bean.
The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Halloween episodes in children's program is typically pretty standard. Some episodes may have a few scares, other feature fun costumes, and then there's The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Nick's show about two brothers with the same name premiered in 1993 and aired for 3 seasons. The quirky show featured a lot of surreal stories with dark themes, but none were as dark as the Halloween episode entitled Halloweenie. The episode starts out with creepy visuals and only gets creepier from there. One of the darkest parts of the story involves a group of kids known as the Pumpkin Eaters. These teens terrorize the town every year on Halloween, with each one wearing a pumpkin with a terrifying carving on it. Another main storyline in the episode focuses on Big Pete's transition from trick-or-treating. He must deal with the sad truth of being too old to trick-or-treat and missing the glory days of collecting as much candy as possible. Everything in the episode comes to a head as both Petes must take on the Pumpkin Eaters while losing the innocence of Halloween. The final scenes all take place in a closed-down haunted house, only adding to the scares and creepiness of the episode.
I did it! I did it! Keenan! I'm sorry, man!
Keenan and Kel. Keenan and Kel is a show that never took themselves too seriously. The characters often found themselves in crazy situations, engaged in physical comedy, and always hatched plans which ended up going wrong one way or another. Then, out of nowhere, the show featured one of their more serious episodes entitled Bye Keenan. The 2-part season finale featured some of the most dramatic moments from the whole Keenan and Kel series. The plot follows a story where Keenan's father needs to move the family because of a new job promotion. Unlike most shows where the move is cancelled, Keenan's family actually goes through with it. Showcasing scenes of the two best friends saying goodbye was actually hard to watch, and you would never expect to be so attached to a bottle of orange soda. One of the saddest moments was when Kel arrives to say goodbye, but the whole Rockmore family has already left. He reveals a big portrait of him and Keenan he wanted to give as a goodbye gift. Way too many feels for a goofy, over-the-top sitcom. Thankfully, the days of Keenan and Kel weren't over. Keenan was able to get his father fired as the family moved back to town so Keenan and Kel's adventures could continue on.
I hereby sentence you to 1 week locked up in a box with 2 contagious sick people.
Guess which movie is represented by these emojis? Stay tuned at the end to find out.
Who's that? There's something down there.
Rugrats, under Chucky's bed. Who knew a sweater could be so scary? On Rugrats, Chucky's anxiety always got the best of him. We typically laugh it off as he was afraid of bugs, the backyard, or even a large flight of stairs. To help us see his point of view and relate to him more than ever, the show's creators presented us with the episode entitled Under Chucky's Bed. The episode starts innocently enough, following Chucky's love and comfort of sleeping in a crib. Then he gets surprised with a big boy bed and everything changes. On the first night in the new bed, Chucky peers under the mattress only to discover the creepy monster living beneath it. Even though it was just a cartoon, you can't forget the deep voice calling Chucky's name.
Hiya, Chucky.
Add in
Oh,
some
and by the
giant shark
way,
teeth and you were probably
this
scared to
place
look under
here
your own
is
bed in the middle of the night.
is a
Thankfully,
bunker
Tommy comes to
too.
spend the night, but even the brave baby has trouble confronting the bed monster.
So this
The big
place
reveal
is an
comes at the end of the
underground where
episode when
staff
Chucky's father
goes,
discovers
and it's a bunker. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Fair enough. I know, right? Cool.
He left an oddly patterned sweater underneath the bed. Unfortunately, even with the lights on, his sweater was still a little creepy. Invader Zim, Halloween Spectacular of Spooky Doom. If you were a scared and anxious child, then one show you probably avoided as a kid was Invader Zim. Almost every episode featured something to be scared of, including characters getting their eyes pulled out and scary creatures who gave you nightmares. Fittingly, one of the scariest episodes in the whole series was known as the Halloween Spectacular of Spooky Doom. The episode features a typical story where Zim is frightened about the children dressed for Halloween and then takes a much darker turn as we follow the character of Dim.
Halloween. Now it's just a shamelessly commercial ploy.
Dim begins having visions of truly terrifying creatures and monsters who turn out to be real. The creatures are from another dimension, and they are looking to capture Dim. The resulting chase scene could have been inserted in any horror film. The creatures are something out of a pure nightmare, and children could easily get scared watching the episode with the lights out. Seeing the children gorge on a ton of candy and transform their bodies adds even more shocking images to the end of the episode. The show is a far cry from the innocent Nickelodeon fodder and even rivals live-action scares from counter-programming like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, come on! Here we go. What not to do at a stoplight?
SpongeBob Squarepants. Procrastination. Through the years, SpongeBob Squarepants has been known for their Halloween episodes, but the show has provided a lot more fun rather than scares.
I've come for your pickle.
For one of the more nightmare-inducing episodes, watch the Season 2 episode entitled Procrastination. The episode presents a nightmare in a different kind of way. Instead of straight-up spooks and scares, we feel the torture and painful struggle SpongeBob must go through as he stays up to complete an assignment for driver's ed. Hours and hours go by without a word written. SpongeBob starts having hallucinations, and we can all relate to the torture of needing to do something and not getting it done. Who hasn't had terrible fears about school tests or assignments, torturing our dreams and making every moment feel like a living nightmare? The animators were able to
No
capture
smoke,
this perfectly
baby.
in the world they created.
I'm in
a
another
seemingly
joint.
endless
Done,
journey as
baby.
SpongeBob dives deeper and deeper into his sleep-deprived state. We feel his pain after several hours and only seeing the word "the"
Time.
Because of this, the episode can be hard to watch for some, and even create nightmares of your own after seeing it. Please just let us watch a normal, more bubbly episode of the show instead.
Welcome to Heck, a friendly community.
Rocko's Modern Life. To heck and back. Reliving the whole series of Rocko's Modern Life can bring back a lot of creepy moments.
Hello, students. Hope everyone studied.
Just the way some of the characters are drawn and animated is enough to spook just about anyone. The show has featured zombies, monsters, and some odd moments, but nothing caused nightmares like the episode entitled To Heck and Back. In the episode, Heifer literally goes to hell, and we follow him along for the torturous journey. The character is brought there after choking on a chicken bone, and we're quickly introduced to Peaches, an animated version of the Grim Reaper.
I am evil. They call me Peaches.
Heifer is shown his gluttony through the years, and Peaches continues to torment the character. At one point, while laughing evilly, Peaches pulls off his hood to reveal squirting cow udders on his head. And this is pretty much the point where we change the channel and devote a good amount of time to church on TV. For those who dared to continue watching, you would get the false ending of Heifer waking up in his bed only to find the whole thing was another trick by Peaches, and Heifer is still trapped in the animated version of hell. Rocko eventually comes to the rescue, but Peaches makes a return in a future episode, bringing back the creepiness and scares that we all want to avoid.
It's the Happy Show Show with your host, Grandma Taters.
When Cindy comes back to town from a karate competition, two characters must team up to take on the whole town of zombie creatures. The episode has a lot of jump scares, creepy moments, and the main villain is the unsuspecting Grandma Taters. Taters' calm demeanor only adds to the horror, and then the big twist ending really brings the scares full circle. A group of Grandma Tater clones appear from a ship to rescue the one in the retro. Then she removes her glasses and we all get spooked, seeing the creepy eyes as she proclaims, "We'll be back." The unusually dark ending is different for the show and just enough to keep kids awake and afraid on a Saturday night. Grandma Taters does make a return in the League of Villains episode, bringing back her creepy nature and demeanor. All real monsters, a wing and a scare. Flying in airplanes is scary enough for some people. The animated series All Real Monsters didn't make it any easier. As Oblina, Crumb, and Ickis attempt to scare a little girl, they become trapped inside a suitcase and escorted onto a plane. The three monsters spend a majority of the flight traveling around various sections of the plane in an attempt to scare the little girl. While they fail at first to frighten her, we experience all types of real flight scares, including the lights going out and some crazy turbulence.
We should get out of here.
Eventually, the three monsters scare a young boy before escaping through the toilet and ending up on the wing of the plane. Somehow. In a scene straight out of the Twilight Zone, literally, a little boy sees the monsters on the wing of the plane and becomes horrified at the sight of them. Things only get worse when Crumb ends up in the jet engine of the plane and nearly causes it to crash. The plane lands safely, but the episode builds on our fear of flying way more than any of the monsters in that show could. Because of the content and jet engine issues, the episode was cut from reruns shortly after the September 11th attacks back in 2001.